greatest minds in human history were complete head cases, and your obsession with being normal is destroying your absolute greatest asset. Think about one of the most influential physicists to ever live. He routinely endured brutal manic episodes. He worked furiously for days, without eating, without sleeping, literally hallucinating and speaking to empty rooms in total isolation. Afterward, he just collapsed into profound darkness. Yet, operating entirely within that volatile cycle, he defined the fundamental laws of physics.
If you want to be a stable, boring gear in the machine, skip this right now. You sit in your daily routine, exhausted, constantly monitoring your words and your actions so you don't seem unhinged. Suppressing your neuroses to fit into a polite, predictable society is severely draining your life force. You look at your intense fixations, your quickness to boredom, or your crippling anxieties as defects to be cured. You want to smooth out your edges so you can be comfortable. But your extremes are your unacknowledged power.
The illusion of clinical normalcy is a complete trap. What modern culture medicates as an illness today was worshipped as divine illumination by ancient empires. The Romans didn't see madness as a disease to eradicate. They viewed the tincture of madness as pure inspiration, a strict requirement for absolute greatness. You're playing a rigged game, where the medical establishment pathologizes the very traits necessary to bend reality to your will.
We analyzed results from a 40-year prospective total population study proving that extreme psychological profiles directly correlate with world-changing creative and scientific breakthroughs. The data is definitive and, frankly, ruthless. Authors show profoundly elevated markers for severe depression. Scientific researchers display schizotypal traits at a staggering rate. Visual artists operate heavily within bipolar spectrums. Nature doesn't hand out extraordinary ability without extracting a severe psychological toll. The very mechanisms that make them suffer are the exact same mechanisms that allow them to see the architecture of reality differently than the masses.
Trick 1 is the madness tincture.
This is the state where historical titans weaponized manic episodes, working furiously without sleep, seeing blinding visions, to completely rewrite the laws of physics. They understood that the energy required to force a new paradigm into existence cannot be generated by a well-adjusted, balanced mind. Take a certain pioneer of electricity. He compulsively calculated the cubic volume of his food in multiples of 3, and he feared dirt to the point of pure agony. He didn't seek out a cure. He weaponized that exact clinical obsession to invent the modern world.
Trick 2 is the comfort fixation. This dismantles the idea that anxiety is a flaw and reframes it as an extreme evolutionary alarm system. You feel the panic rising and think you're breaking down. You're not. Your brain is demanding flawless execution. A legendary 90s musician possessed a crippling fear of what others thought. Behind his carefully crafted facade of total apathy, the sheer terror of public humiliation drove him to run continuous 15-hour rehearsal sessions. The anxiety was the raw fuel that produced absolute mastery.
Trick 3 is the double-zero roulette.
Nature occasionally puts all its chips on a volatile mind. If it hits, that individual advances the entire species. Data reveals that CEOs are statistically more likely to exhibit psychopathic tendencies, proving that detached calculation is heavily rewarded in unstable environments. They'll lay off 1,000 people to save the company without losing a single minute of sleep. Society labels them disordered, sure, but markets reward them because their psychological detachment is the exact tool required when weak leaders freeze up.
We look at ancient history through a heavily sanitized lens. Think about it. The tribal ancestor who was deemed delusional for hallucinating a burning bush might be the exact one who led a mass migration and birthed Western civilization. Paradoxically, the traits that should cause these minds to fall out of the gene pool are the exact ones that keep them in it. The mechanism that caused him to see things that were not there allowed him to envision a future that did not yet exist.
Trick 4 is the mule's plow.
This is a direct counter to the toxic self-help myth that you must somehow heal every trauma and smooth every rough edge to achieve greatness. An agricultural revolutionary didn't cure her inability to read social cues. She dragged her autistic trait of thinking purely in pictures to completely redesign an entire global industry. She pulled it with her like a mule pulling a heavy plow. She weaponized the simple fact that she didn't know how to care about what people thought.
Trick 5 is the wildcard paradox.
This is the cold, hard fact that while society completely relies on stable, predictable people to keep the lights on, it desperately needs weirdos to prevent total stagnation. The hypersensitive, anxiety-causing a panic attack in the office is the exact same physiological mechanism required to take a massive entrepreneurial risk. The backbone maintains the present. The wildcards force the future. You are meant to take the gamble that the stable majority is too terrified to even consider.
Stop trying to cure yourself. Trying to fix these eccentricities is not only pointless, but it severely neuters the very traits that make you dangerous and effective. You're trying to file down the sharpest blade in your armory just so you don't accidentally cut yourself. You trade your high-leverage power for low-leverage comfort. The moment you stop apologizing for how your brain operates is the exact moment you become completely untouchable.
Your mission is to stop conforming today and demand that you own your mental extremes like any other physical asset. Identify your extreme quirk, whether it's an intense obsession with detail, a quickness to boredom, or a relentless paranoia. Accept the collateral damage it causes in your polite relationships, then weaponize it for high-stakes execution. Point that obsession at a problem that requires an entirely unreasonable solution.
If you are perfectly normal, you will be perfectly forgotten. Which path will you choose? Execute this mission today, drop a comment with a number of the psychological trick that resonated most, and subscribe to Mentalities.